What's up, everybody? We're back here at the GSL versus the world. We are in the show match section. It's Team Maru versus Team Serral. It's been pretty neck and neck so far. And by the way, God Emperor King Serral manhandling Maru. I thought Maru did had a great effort in staying alive there, but I mean, really, Serral just hammering away over and over and dominating.
There was a big window there for Maru to actually win that game as well. When Serral overextended onto the higher ground there into where that planetary, like that defensive triangle of the Terran, he lost his whole army. Maru still had Ghosts and Liberators, and I'm like, geez, this is getting, I was starting to get a little bit warm under the collar there. I started talking about, uh-oh.
Yeah, you say there's a window there, but I think it's one of those hotel windows that doesn't even open, okay? As far as I'm concerned, Serral is the chosen one, okay?
Yes, he is.
It's the golden child.
I mean, all he's got left here is stats in the finals, right?
The day is not over yet. There's still potential a rematch, perhaps, between Maru and Serral.
Well, imagine that.
That's still possible, but of course there's still
I guarantee you double proxy racks in that game,
Roddy.
Roddy.
No, well, you know what? Maybe we just have to live in that universe after what we just saw.
Yeah.
Now, I loved everything about that previous match, and I loved the moment on stage as well. When Maru walked over, and then Sarah's like, oh, should I go? And Neeb was like, yes, you go. Scarlett's like, yes, you
Everyone's
go.
like, yes, you should. Otherwise, it's a sacrifice. Just go.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. What a day.
I loved how Maru was like, oh, no, and like everyone's on his team's kind of laughing at him.
Oh, it was awesome,
my God.
guys.
We've never had anything like this, seriously.
No.
20 years of StarCraft.
It's kind of crazy.
It's like you can go back and name a couple non-Korean champions at the very beginning, and then like Neeb won a tournament once in 2016, but like this is something very different.
Like the way that I see it is that in the past when we had our foreign heroes, and we've had a lot of good players, like Stefano had during his reign of era, but it was mostly like the ZVP, when Stefano was winning like the NESL tournament back in the days. I knew he was going to win that against all the Koreans, but it was because he was untouchable, mostly in ZVP. And then of course, you know, when Neeb was victorious a couple years ago here in South Korea, that was fantastic. But that was also like his PvP was really good, guys. But Serral, he's a complete player, and we've said that many times. It's a boring way to describe someone, because it's cooler if he really excels at one thing, but he kind of excels at everything, and that makes him so freaking cool.
Yeah, and don't compare him to other players, please. Okay, I see people like, oh, is he like the new this guy or the new that guy? It's like, no. He's the first of his kind.
Yeah.
Maybe the last of his kind. We don't know yet.
He's the chosen one.
And the story is so
Then he
amazing.
beats stats and rips off his mask and grows 2 feet. It's Nesty! Oh my God! He's back.
Now that's about when we pack up the esports scene for StarCraft.
We end esports. The experiment is done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, guys, you know, we're going to be done with the show match in probably another hour or two, but then we have our actual GSL versus the World Finals, which we've been leading up to over the past 4 days. It's going to be Stats versus Serral. We thought it was possibly going to be Maru versus Serral, but I guess we know how that might have looked as well after that show match.
Nah, I mean, obviously, guys, we can like suddenly make it sound that Maru will never beat Serral or something, and that's also not.
I can just try to stop me.
It is the best of one, and it is the best of one. We really wanted that best of 7, but
I'm the biggest Serral fanboy there is, and I think I have been for a long time. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Obviously, there are still plenty of people out there that can beat Serral. But what Serral is showing is that he's absolutely at that level where he can always, on almost any given moment, beat them as well. That's just really freaking cool, because that is so rare in StarCraft, guys, that we have that scenario, right?
Yeah. Well, this is like the first time we've ever had anything like this. It's really important to say that. We've been here the whole time. We've been watching it the whole time. This is the first time it's ever happened. Okay, this is not something made up. This isn't a made-up narrative. This is real.
It's not a batch. It's not a matchup. It's the actual overall level.
It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on.
This next one is going to be really fun as well, though, guys. A PvP between ShoWTimE and Classic. Team Maru is currently up 2-1. And, of course, Team GSL is kind of up 2-1 over Team World. But that doesn't matter other than just the prize monies.
Indeed.
So, ShoWTimE versus Classic. ShoWTimE, very textbook, very orthodox Protoss, so disciplined is this guy. Classic, he's been at the very, very top of Protoss in the world several times. Let's go into this next match, a best of 1 between these two. ShoWTimE versus Classic. In the upper left, in the red, from Germany, he is
ShoWTimE.
in the bottom right, in the blue, from Korea, our other Protoss player, he is
So, of course, ShoWTimE defeated Zest pretty one-handedly, you know, in this actual tournament. But I do want to point out that I feel like Classic many times has been the best to second best PvP in Korea. You know, Zest is definitely a very strong PvP as well, but just generally speaking over the last year and a half or so, I think that Classic's been a little bit stronger in the matchup. So definitely not giving this one as an easy win for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, let's also remember that ShoWTimE had, you know, he's obviously a great player, but he did have a bumpy performance in the bracketed format of the GSL versus the World. He's definitely wanting to redeem himself and leave on a better note. So this match, certainly important to him. But the Classic's somebody who's really, at periods in his career, seemed to understand the most about Protoss and stretch that race to the very limits that it can be pulled to.
Yeah, and he's definitely done that quite often. Now, let's take a look at where they want to go as far as these initial units. Exact mirrors right now. Getting that Sentry, getting that Stalker. People are really liking getting that early Sentry to scout what their opponents are doing, since everyone's trying to be a sneaky snake in PvP lately.
Yeah. Well, PvP, especially in this iteration of Legacy of the Void, there's so many different ways you can take the game. It's, out of, I think, all RTS games, it's kind of one of the craziest mirror matchups as far as explosivity, different forks that you can try to take builds, how to counter certain counters.
Yeah.
So far, yeah, we are seeing these two guys doing the same thing, but we have to imagine it will be deviating soon.
Well, right now they're both getting Stargates, so there is a possibility we just go into Phoenixes. Coming up here.
That is the natural progression. If you both find out that you've gone Stargates, you sort of can't stop at that point in time.
Yeah.
You're married to that strategy, because the player who decides to pull out of the Phoenix arms race ends up with the other player having just enough Phoenixes to run them over and then pick up all the ground units to kill them, and then you lose all the workers, and then you lose all the entire game.
Well, it looks like Classic going to come up here with the Probe and with the Stalker. Sees the Nexus. He sees that it is a little bit late, so there has to be a tech building behind that. Both sides making Phoenixes. Man, if it turns into Phoenix versus Phoenix, that is when you get a really crazy, crazy game.
Yeah, and it will end very quickly, depending on who made the right or the wrong decision on how to do the Phoenix tech. Now, neither player has full confirmation, though, that it's Phoenix versus Phoenix, or that it could be, so we'll have to see. You know, sometimes, well, hold on, we're actually going to see them spot each other right now, because they have the hallucinated Phoenixes coming across the map to scout and find the real Phoenixes.
Of course, when they see the real Phoenixes on both sides, this just kind of tells you, okay, you need to just sit here and make more Phoenixes.
That's right. Now, Phoenixes in high numbers kill other Phoenixes very quickly. The Phoenixes, it is a powerful unit, but it is brittle when it is hit. And so having the proper engagement in Phoenix versus Phoenix is so important.
It really is. You need them all to be shooting their volleys. It's as much at the same time as you possibly can, so you see them kind of spam clicked into one little stack. You see these little patrols that ShoWTimE is doing right now. Second Stargate coming up for Classic a little bit quicker. If you get ahead on that Phoenix count, it is a big advantage. So that is what he's looking to do. ShoWTimE going a little bit slower into that. Of course, having enough gas to actually support this can be a little bit tough.
Okay, the second Stargates are finishing up. Keep in mind that, of course, you can wipe out workers so quickly with Phoenixes, but it's kind of funny, because if you're out in the middle of the map with your Phoenixes and they then fly into your main or your natural and you're not there to try to help defend it, what you will end up with is you'll lose all your workers, and if you can get back out in time, it's very hard to recover. You know, it's also tricky to do any kind of engages on the ground here, because if you have Phoenixes defending, you're going to wipe out that army very quickly, especially as the Phoenix numbers rise, like we're seeing right here.
Yeah, I mean, that one Stalker, that was mostly a scout to try to figure out what's going on. Do you have a second Stargate, that type of thing. This Sentry of Classic kind of moving into a funny location. I'm not so sure about what he's doing there. It seems like it's a spotter, but to be honest, you need a sentry underneath your Phoenix fleet. Oh, okay, it was for a scout. I was going to say, though, Guardian Shield is unbelievably amazing in Phoenix versus Phoenix.
It does give you a little bit of a defender's advantage here. So you can see ShoWTimE's actually out towards the front of his base, and the thrust of this is to deny any scouting. And if the Phoenixes do try to come across the map here for Classic, he would actually have his rally point would be closer to his army. So ShoWTimE would in theory have more. Classic's taken a little. By the way, neither one's right or wrong, but Classic's taken a more defensive approach. He's staying in his natural, in between the third and the main. Now he's also staying fairly active, so he's trying to move them around.
Well, ShoWTimE is just doing everything slower, and this is actually something I've seen from him a lot, where like he's such a reactive Protoss player that he oftentimes does things slower. He got a slower second Stargate, he's getting a slower third base, a slower fleet beacon. The thing is, like, this is going to give a little edge here to Classic.
Yeah, you know, one other thing we got to point out, because Phoenix vs. Phoenix has a whole bunch of weird properties to it. When you see Phoenixes moving together, it's easy to bunch them up in certain situations, but if you have them stop, you see how they spread out like that? Well, if they're spread out and fill up more of your screen, then an opposing Phoenix group, I should say, that's bunched up can come in a corner and shave that off. So you'll see the players constantly moving the Phoenixes and trying to group them together, because you want to have them in a tight ball just like that.
Yes.
And then once you let go, they arc back out.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, this is actually one of the easiest things to macro in the entire game is Phoenix versus Phoenix. You just sit there and you make Phoenixes and pylons and probes. Sometimes you put some pylons on the map because Phoenixes can't hit ground. And that's about that. So the rest of your APM is generally put into just getting these Phoenixes to stack.
Now, Classic appears to be positioned to push. We see the sentry on the low ground here. He wants to Guardian Shield. Oh, that was funny. Okay, he's coming forward. Guardian Shield activated.
Oh,
Classic backs up.
my
Classic
gosh.
takes out a few spare Phoenixes.
Yeah, that was huge. He's up 5 right now. He takes out the defending sentry as well. This is a huge advantage for him right now. That very quick Phoenix range making a huge difference.
And you can see ShoWTimE has to respect this and back up, and that means that Classic's going to be going towards the main. He could get on top of the starports as well as take out all these workers.
ShoWTimE's in a ton of trouble coming in right now looking for that engagement. He does have range, but he's down in the numbers. He's down 10 Phoenixes right now. Not much of a chance left here for ShoWTimE.
Classic regroups. He needs to come back and see where else can he try to poke in and do some damage. It's going to be very difficult for ShoWTimE to recover from here. And with Classic having map dominance, he's going to assert that by taking the gold base. And what the hell is ShoWTimE supposed to do to stop this?
Well, that is a really great question there, Nick. And I can't tell you the answer, because when you're down 10 Phoenixes, you're going to lose the next Phoenix battle too, but even worse than the first.
Yeah, as good of a player as ShoWTimE is, Classic, at least in this branch of PvP, seems to know from A to Z how to play it.
Yeah, he really has. You know, he took a little bit of a risk getting a much quicker second Stargate, the quicker third and all this, but that is paying off hugely now. Flying across the map, he's got twice as many Phoenixes, literally 26 to 13.
Yeah, and from here, all the workers are going to die, and this is going to be
oh my God,
pretty painful death here. He's bringing Stalkers up. You can see they're being picked up. Good control here by Classic. Classic's going for the jugular, gunning down all of these Phoenixes. And with the Stalkers on the ground, there's going to be nothing else left. GG. Classic takes that game easy peasy.
Yeah, that was definitely a one-sided one right there, despite opening with the same strategies. And, you know, that's another win there for the Koreans. ShoWTimE falling. He did beat Zest, but Classic too much.
And ShoWTimE is so good at Phoenix versus Phoenix, but it was a bit of an underwhelming game, surprisingly. He just found himself behind suddenly.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because you have two guys going in concept for the same thing, but one player just had a more efficient path to get there. And in all of RTS, there's maybe ZVZ and StarCraft 1, there's no other matchup where it becomes an arms race for just one unit. And you can't really transition out of it.
Yeah, and it's true. You can't really transition out of Phoenixes ever. It would be like you'd have to completely sneak into Archons or something like that. It's just not doable.
Yeah.
So, anyways, looking at this next match. So wait, Team Maru has to send out someone first, right?
Yes. No, Team Serral.
Oh, Team Serral does. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so Rogue gonna come out here. The map's gonna be Catalyst.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, Catalyst.
Yeah, that should be Catalyst.
It seems like Special was thinking about going out here. I think Cyan saying, no, me, Rogue? No, you
Cyan
can go
did
out.
say in the pregame when they were standing on stage that he would love to play against Rogue because he would love to go up against a very strong opponent. So yeah, it's Special or Rogue.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me, Special or Cyan.
And look at Sue just laughing. He's like, yeah, send him out. He's going to lose.
I think they're going to send Special out.
Yeah, I think
it
so.
Seems like it.
I think you're right.
Special's like, oh, no, I'm just going to go Ghosts and Cyclones. I don't know. Maybe it'll work.
Oh, ShoWTimE. A little bit salty after that loss.
Yeah.
I think above all, he's disappointed. He's like, Maru, I'm sorry.
Let you down, Maru. Well, he's in timeout right now. You can see over there.
Yep.
Oh, it's going to be, all right, Scion, our Chinese player.
Ooh.
Here we go. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, Roddy, you were saying he wanted to play someone strong, and the defending world champion, IM Katowice champion, Super Tournament 2 champion, Shanghai IM champion. Yeah, I would say Rogue's pretty strong.
He qualifies.
I mean, he's guys, he's
all
no
right.
Serral, but
He's
I mean,
all right.
you know, he is the defending world champion.
Well, this is a good chance for Cyan to get some redemption. He had a bit of an underwhelming series in the tournament proper, so it'd be nice for him to get a win on stage for sure. Like, and get a lot more fans out there. You know, he's got a big following over in China. Would love to see him get a win here on stage, but you guys already touched on it. We have to go back, circle around it again. It is Rogue we're talking about here.
And look at this, Rogue talking to Zest there. He's like, "What should I do against him?" He's like, "You make Hydras and Banes."
Like
I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks."
Oh, there, ShoWTimE. We know you're good.
He is a great player. I think he actually has a lot more that he can still develop off of. You know, he's very disciplined. He trains really hard. He's a super nice, awesome guy in person. I look forward to seeing him in the next GSL versus the world.
Phoenix versus Phoenix losses sting extra bad, guys. They sting extra bad. You know what was most amazing to me is that without too much happening, look at the worker deficit. This is not normal, guys, in a PvP. This is what was blowing me away. 8 workers in a PvP. That is insane. Like, you can just literally outproduce your opponent in Phoenixes, and since that's all you're making, you're always gonna win. Like, the worker deficit was just way too big, and gateway units, I'm never a big fan of gateway units in Phoenix Wars because they don't do anything.
Well, Stalker's also just fires slow, and they can always be disabled if you have more Phoenixes anyways. So.
Yeah, and of course the biggest deal is that Phoenixes do extra damage against other Phoenixes because it's the light armor units, and Stalkers don't do bonus damage against Phoenix. That's why Stalkers are kind of bad. Guardian Shield is of course very important and useful. That is something that makes a lot of sense, but yeah, just a really good game there by Classic.
Yeah, definitely showing us how to go Phoenixes in PvP.
I already knew that.
Yes, I know you knew that for sure.
So the players are going to get their gear set up, and as soon as that game is ready, we're going to jump right into it. Who do you think is going to take this?
Rogue?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Look, Cyan's a great, Cyan's a great player.
Tasteless asks the hard questions.
What a stupid question.
Hard-hitting
Tasteless.
journalist, Tasteless here.
Cyan is a great player, but yeah, I mean, Rogue was what Serral is now. Everybody was talking about Rogue. He's so amazing. He's got incredible play from start to finish. He's got good all-ins. He's got good super late game. He really showed how elastic Zerg can be in late game. And as good as Cyan is, I mean, there's a big gap in the experience. I don't feel like Rogue feels any pressure at all. I think his heart rate is exactly at normal. Where I think for Cyan, it's like, okay, I got to prove myself here.
It's one of those matches where obviously we cannot ever answer anything other than yes, Rogue is going to win this, because otherwise we look very silly, because that wouldn't make any sense. But I am excited to see how Cyan is approaching this. You know, what does he have in store for us? If he's going to go for a relatively normal build, let's say like some Resonating Glaives Adapts into Immortal Archon, which I think is quite solid on Catalyst.
Sure.
Let's see how the execution is, and hey, maybe he can absolutely stun us and somehow pull off a victory here. But yeah, Rogue is an overwhelming favorite. There's no other way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, if he does pull off the victory, that is suddenly like a big momentum shift towards the non-Koreans.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that he has something very good planned. I mean, it seemed like he was not really shaken that he's going out at this point. And he had such an underwhelming series against Stats before that you would almost, you know, because some of these guys that haven't won any maps yet, you know, throughout the 4 days, I feel like there's more pressure on them to really show a good game here today in front of the big crowd. So the fact that he's totally unfazed going out against Rogue is either he's a really great team player and ready to take one for that team, or he's got something planned that he
I
thinks
mean,
he
if
can
you're
win.
Cyan here and you're going up against everything that you just mentioned, the guy that won like 4 tournaments in a row last year, you don't have a lot to lose. So you may just see that as an opportunity. Actually, no pressure, because nobody thinks I'm going to win this one. But I do have a couple things that I have faith in. And let's just go out there and let's get a victory that people will remember. Because nobody's going to remember Rogue beating Cyan. But if Cyan beats Rogue,
Yeah, that's true.
we'll all remember that and we'll all keep talking about that.
That is true.
That is true.
That'll be our new thing that we say every time Cyan comes out.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
right.
We're going to put it on his resume and every single time he plays a game. It's like, we know that this is a PvP, but once upon a time he did beat Rogue.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. Because probably Rogue's Protoss is even really good, probably better than some of these pros.
It might be, yeah. Yeah, let's see. What kind of play do you think we would see strategically then from Cyan? I mean,
it's so hard to predict.
Do you want to play standard, or do you want to do something really crazy? Because I actually feel like Cyan should do something kind of wild.
I do feel like he has to get wild here. If you play a regular PvZ against Rogue, you're kind of asking for it. I mean, he had conviction when he got up there. He was like, yeah, this is my time. Here we go. Like, he said he wanted this. His face showed that he wanted this when he was picked and he got up to go into the booth. So,
here, I got the build, guys.
Oh, look at that.
Right.
Look at the captain just sitting in the back. He's like, I showed my young warriors
It's like, I'm
the
done,
way.
guys. I beat Maru.
And then everyone turns around and is like, we're actually all older than you, Serral. Don't call us your young warriors.
And over here, you can see just Sue just laughing the entire tournament, man.
He's having the time of his life. He's loving it.
It doesn't matter if he's sending out someone to slaughter, he's laughing. It's like, I feel like Maru on the edge here. He thinks he's the captain, but Sue just, the body language, the way that he's blocking Maru out and talking to everyone else. Sue's the actual guy in charge of Team Maru, if you ask me.
I am the captain now.
I think you're right.
We still got a couple of very fun players to shine in this matchup. Obviously, I look forward to seeing Neeb. Neeb had a, you could say, underwhelming series against Dark, but I would put more emphasis on Dark just being really good in that best of 5 rather than Neeb being disappointing.
I'm with you there.
Let's talk about Neeb's great interview on stage where Dark said that, in fact, Serral's the exception and that the foreigners are not that good. And Neeb said, well, I understand that the Koreans are good, but we are also good as well. And I thought, well, nice parry there. Yeah. Nice parry in that interview process. That was well done.
Yeah, so that's some straight fire right there, Tasteless.
But like, I understand where Neeb is going, right? Because some people, especially in the community as well, they make it sound like, okay, you know what? Maybe Serral is good. You guys can have that. Maybe Serral is good. But everybody else from that region is not that good. It's like, guys, Serral is dropping maps, you know? Like, okay, they're not beating him this year in WCS, but they were last year. And Serral's reign didn't just suddenly start this year. This was a long time coming. You go back to 2017 Katowice, that's beginning of the year. Who was the highest placing non-Korean? That was already Serral, you know. So he's been there and he still struggles. I mean, yes, Serral won Valencia, but Scarlett was up 2-1, and that also shows how good Scarlett, I think, is at the moment, because he was up 2-1, and he was actually winning Game 4 against Serral, so that would have completely kind of changed the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, she was beating Classic as well. We thought she was going to take that series on. She's always a contender.
That was a heartbreaker, that series.
Yeah, she even mentioned in the end, this is a little bit of backstage information for you guys, that Scarlett felt like she actually threw that last game, that she really did have that one in the bag.
Felt like
unfortunate there.
All right, guys, I think we're almost ready now. Rogue against Cyan.
It's going to be a cracker.
Oh, I think
it's going to be a barn burner.
Well, look, what's the worst that can happen? Lings get in right away and he loses? Okay.
Do you remember that Nidus thing that Rogue used to do to just eliminate people really unceremoniously from the game?
Straight up, right by the rowboat, disrespect Nidus.
He just puts it right in his face. He's like, here it is. Good luck.
Yeah. The ladder was not fun for the week after that event. Like, I lost way too much MMR to that stupid build.
A lot of pressure on Cyan here. It's 1-3 right now, and Rogue is such a formidable Zerg. Okay. We are going to jump into this match. It's loaded up. This is Scion versus Rogue here at the GSL versus the World Show match.
In the top left here, Roddy. He is the greatest from China, the winner of GPL 3, none other than
Top Sports Gaming, Scion.
This guy is a 6,300 Korean Grandmaster player. That's top 40 on the ladder for anyone wondering.
good. But you know what's also good?
What's
winning
good?
BlizzCon.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
Winning Katowice.
Oh, that's good, too.
Jin Green Wings.
Ooh, that's good, too.
And he's done it.
Yes.
So yes, obviously Cyan, guys, a very big underdog here. But let's see. Obviously, like you said, if he's 6,300 on that KR server, that obviously means that Cyan can play and that he's not unfamiliar with going up against players of the caliber of Rogue. However, we saw it in the actual GSL vs. the World Tournament as well in the round of 16. Cyan's PvP was not up to the standards of stats. No, there's nothing to be ashamed of. But when it comes to different matchups, Rogue is also that level. So
yeah. Well, I mean, for me, coming into this, the best Zerg in the world was either Rogue or Serral, right? So this is definitely a very strong one. But I just want to see what Cyan has up his sleeve here, because you should not underestimate a Protoss player. And I don't want to be too cheeky about that, but there are some really strong timing attacks that you can pull off that if your opponent, messes up for even a second, like it's a risky play by you, but if they make any mistakes, sometimes you can just kill them.
Yep. Catalyst is not the biggest map out there, so I do think it's kind of hard to truly catch your opponent off guard.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I like about when I watch Classic play this matchup, right? I've seen a lot of Classic lately on this matchup, on this map in particular, in this matchup is what I tried to say, is that he makes his builds look the same with that Phoenix, with that Oracle, and then he shows the depths. But it's so hard to figure out as a Zerg player if this is just the 4 or 5 adepts that he builds out of his gateway unit,
That's true.
or if there's a Twilight console in the back of that Protoss base somewhere researching resonating glaives. And this really sets apart the good Protosses from the top Protosses. And the top Protosses are so good in selling something that's not actually there. So I'm going to keep a close eye to see what is Cyan actually showing Rogue, and is he trying to at least trick him or make him paranoid about stuff that maybe isn't happening.
Well, that's what you need to do. There is always the possibility that Rogue takes a slight hit to his economy, spends a bit more on scouting. Occasionally we do still see someone go for Overlord speed.
He's making a lot of links, by the way, Rogue that is.
Oh,
that's
yeah, he is. Quite a few.
Yep, that's way more links than you normally see against 1 or 2 adepts. The adepts does get a good scout off.
Yeah.
Somehow lives as well. It's a Phoenix first. Tiny bit risky, by the way, to do that when there was quite a few Zerglings out there. Does Cyan have a battery? Because if he doesn't have a battery in his
battery yet.
Potentially get a little bit nervous about this.
Well, he's got 2 adepts.
I think you said before this match started, what's the worst thing that could happen? A bunch
Lings
of
get in, and yeah. Well, that's the worst, right? That's the worst way to lose a game on stage as a Protoss player here. Is Lings just slip into your base and kill your probes, and you're like, I have to press GG right now.
Good move there, at least with the adept. He puts the adept that's full on HP in the front. Now Pilot shows up as well. Actually, Cyan handled that really well.
Yeah. Those Lings don't really do much at all, do they? Those could have been drones, but they're not. All he did was damage some adepts here. But look, he is getting that Overlord speed I was talking about before. So this is kind of a nod towards being nervous about what Cyan could be doing. And Cyan's going for a double Stargate.
Big fan of that. Rogue is getting Spore Crawlers on the other side of the map because he's obviously expecting an Oracle or perhaps even 2 Oracles to be produced after that one Phoenix has showed itself. And
how did that Overlord get away, Robbie?
I have no idea. I think the Zerglings distracted the Phoenix. The Phoenix like, you guys need help down there?
The Phoenix showed mercy. That Phoenix would be a good ruler. So 3 Adepts coming into the 3rd base now. Doesn't look like they'll be able to get too much done. He's being very careful about that. Speed Overlord going towards the main base. And now we get to see how Rogue wants to counter 2 Stargate Phoenix.
Well, he's making a Roach one, which is not necessarily the ideal building, but every now and then you do see Roaches still be effective, right? Because if too many Phoenixes are out there, the combination of Roaches and Zerglings can really mess Protoss up on the other side of the map if they don't have enough to deal with the Roaches on the ground. Because, Phoenixes are good, but eventually they can run out of energy as well, especially if you're busy harassing.
Yeah.
So let's see.
I think he lost the Phoenix that lifted up the Queen in the main base, by the way. So maybe a little bit of nerves coming out of here for Cyan, even though he does play on stage quite a bit in China. Again, he did just win GPL 3, so you'll see this guy in Montreal at least, even if he doesn't do well here.
I really loved Cyan in 2016 when I really felt he was the first real legit Protoss player that I saw from China. And don't get me wrong, I've always been a fan of Jim and Maxset.
Oh,
they were very
anyone who has to cast next to Mr. Bitter has to be a fan of Jim, right? Or it
no,
doesn't
of
work.
Course, of course. But They were awesome, but they were kind of one-dimensional Protoss players. They were very stubborn and stuck in their ways. And when I was watching a lot of Cyan in 2016, I'm like, damn, this guy's actually kind of like the Korean Protoss. He really kind of tries to do it all.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very fun and exciting. There you have the Spire, by the way, which I know you love.
Oh, yes.
So you can talk about it real soon. But then after that, Cyan kind of disappeared. Then I got really excited about Time for a while from the Chinese scene. But now it really does seem that Cyan has picked up the mouse again.
Yeah.
He has dropped the microphone for a bit because he's been casting as well. And hopefully he can show some very cool things in the later stages of 2018 and perhaps even in this game.
Well, I know, Roddy, at least for you and I who try to stay active at various StarCraft games, we want to see someone who commentates do well playing here against Rogue. The Phoenix is doing a decent amount of damage here, but like you were talking about, the Spire is on the way. And there's like a new way to play where you can get a bunch of Corruptors against the Phoenixes and try to really abuse the Protoss through this. You kill the Phoenixes in the air, and then you start to utilize the Corruptors in other ways. Like you can go ahead and start attacking buildings with them, right? And I love it, personally.
I think it is very cool, but it's very situational. But I think in this situation, the Spire is awesome, because I don't think Cyan is aware of it, is he? He hasn't seen it at all.
I don't think so.
And he has already lost a couple Phoenixes as well, but the biggest issue I have with Cyan's position is that he had a lot of Phoenix, but he never got +1 air weapons, and it's such a cheap upgrade. And I really think Phoenixes, if you have the upgrade advantage over Corruptors, they're actually pretty good. It's just that they're not good if these are 0-0 Phoenixes.
Yeah.
And the first time you're aware of Corruptors being out on the map is when they spawn. That's obviously too late, because then, I totally with you, the Phoenixes are kind of pointless and they don't really do much anymore.
Now, I want to say one thing, right? Because one of my favorite things about the Corruptors, after they kill the Phoenixes, they kind of force out a bunch of Stalkers. But he already had that as a plan. So either he scouted it and decided that, or already had that as a plan. But he's going double Forge Blink, which actually is going to be pretty good against this because he already wants to make Stalkers. Normally, you don't want to make Stalkers against Zerg. It's like it's not good in the current meta. But in this case, I actually really like this for Cyan.
Yeah, this is a really cool move. I like the way he's playing as well. He's going for the Cybernetics core for a split second and also a tiny bit on the Nexus. I think Rogue's going to have to abandon this mission, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, getting a Cyber core is nice and all, but you don't want to sacrifice the 9 Corruptors you just made, and that's kind of what happened.
Ooh, Baneling's just walking in out of nowhere. Slow Banelings even. That was a bit optimistic. Doesn't quite work out. Blink is going to be finishing here. So the Corruptors, they haven't killed the Phoenixes. And again, Stalkers are blocking them from killing many buildings, so...
There are a bunch of Hydras on the way. You know the only thing I'd love to see? A Robo Bay. If you play Double Forge, give me a couple Colossus as well, because Rogue is obviously going to be very, very, very heavy on the Roach Hydra, excuse me, not Roach Hydra, Hydra Link Bane.
Yeah.
Colossus, fantastic against all 3 units. So I'd really love to see a couple of Colossi being produced.
No, I kind of agree with you on that one. He doesn't really have splash damage at the moment, and so if you're playing against Lingbane Hydra with any sort of Stalker composition, you're relying on force fields immensely. He doesn't have that many, like he has 5 sentries, the energy's not that high on him. I'm a bit nervous about that. But
defense is good so far by Cyan. I mean, I think Cyan is playing a cute game. The problem is he hasn't been on the side of Rogue for the last 3 or 4 minutes.
That's true.
And if you play against a world-class Zerg, you need to keep picking up drones. You need to keep a close eye on what is actually happening. You need to know where you're at in the game. Because right now, we can look at this and be like, hey man, Cyan is playing a really cool game. He's having a bunch of buildings. He's even getting stormed. This is all quite nice. And it is, guys. The problem is, during all of this, it was even before Rogue is at 82 workers at this point. He's got 4 bases. He's got Baneling speed. He's getting a lurker then. Like, Rogue has gone 2 uncontested over the last 2 minutes in this game.
Yeah, and that's something that makes it very, very difficult for Protoss. But he's building a pretty decent army here. Once he has Psystorm and 2-2 done, that's formidable for sure. But this army from Rogue is coming right now.
He does have Overlord speed, right? So I'd love to see a couple Banelings in those Overlords as well. I mean, of course, there are still Phoenixes, but there are Corruptors in the mix as well. Stasis Trap buys a little bit of time, but these Banelings are rolling into the mineral lines on the north side.
Oh, he's actually doing a recall here. A little bit surprised about that. The Baneling's catching up to a bunch of probes. Looks like many of them will go down. In the meantime, the Hydra's starting to take out pieces of the army.
Those Bane's a little bit indecisive there in the end. In the end, they're going to try to go for the Sentries or High Templars. Maybe Storms go down. And those were actually pretty good Storms. I mean, I like the hold by Cyan, but I think Rogue is still completely okay in this game because of the economy that Rogue is working with.
Yeah, he does have a gigantic economy with that 5th base up now. But what about this 2-2? Like, he can push right now, and this is going to be maybe his strongest moment in the game. But against Lurkers?
Yeah, Lurkers.
Ooh,
Banelings on creep as well, don't forget about that. Hydras and Banes are so much more powerful on creep than they're off creep, just because of the way they move. Corruptors are going to buy a little bit of time in the main base. They won't get anything, but what Rogue is achieving here is keeping Cyan in his main base, and that allows him to get the lurk account that he wants. And once again, I'd really love to see Rogue morph, let's say 3 or 4 Dropper-Lords. I think that would be really cool.
Sure.
Put a couple Banelings in it. You've got the economy for it, Rogue, so why not?
Oh, I'm down for it, man. Go for it. And, you know, go up to Hive while we're at it. Why not? He's got quite a few Lurkers here now. Good Psystorm right there. He actually clears the Banelings pretty effectively. Those Lurkers, though, really going to town on these Stalkers. They're taking so much damage. A blink back. Loses that Sentry, still with high energy as well.
Yeah, a few High Templars are left, but it seems like Rogue just simply has too many. A lot of Banelings blowing up all the probes on the left side. The Lurkers are in a very beautiful position at this point as well. And Cyan fought. He really put up a decent fight, but in the end, Rogue seems to be just a little too strong.
Yeah, I got to say, though, this was way better than his PvPs that he showed against Stats. Like, this was kind of nice. He brought his own style in here. He played it pretty well. It's just, you know, you're going to play Rogue.
Yeah,
That's a tough one, man.
Rogue achieved so much with his Corruptors, even though they didn't really pick off a lot of units or buildings. But what he kept is he dictated the game.
Yeah.
He said, Cyan, you're going to chase these Corruptors around for a couple minutes. And then on the other side of the map, I'm going to do what I do best because I'm Rogue, and I'm going to get an insane economy and a crazy amount of units. And then when we start fighting, even if the fights go all right for you, they will always go better for me because I'm rich and you're not.
And that is all she wrote. GG is called. Rogue takes down Cyan.
He's very pleased about that as well.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah.
You see that Team Serral? High fives all around. Maru gives him a look. It's the traitor.
Okay.
Very impressive stuff there by Rogue. I mean, what are you going to say? Rogue looks pretty invincible a lot of the time. I mean, we were watching Banelings run one way through the base, and then Rogue's like, nah, let's go bring him back over here. Rough GSL versus World here for Cyan, but look, I think Cyan's still got a bright future ahead of him. You know, it takes a lot of time, a lot of experience to ever hold your own against a player like Rogue.
Yeah, well, I mean, very few people can say that they've defeated him.
This guy just can't stop laughing at everything.
Is it like Sue's birthday or something? He just seems like he's having the time of his life right now. Like
He is indeed. Well, he's not in the finals, so he's probably pretty happy about that.
He's like, but man, even in a team match, my team is going to be the runner-up. This is ridiculous. I've even got Maru on my team. There's a good chance Sue comes out next, actually. I mean,
yeah, could be. And at this point, though, we actually need a victory from Special, right? To tie this up?
That's right. They're on match point. Team Serral is 4-1 at the moment. And if we get to 5 games, that means Team Serral wins.
Yes, but we will play out all 8 matches, right?
No,
never mind. Guys, we're not going to play out all 8 matches.
First team to 5. So I believe Scarlett is coming out for Team Serral.
All right.
Sue maybe in the ZVZ then?
I'm not sure who the counter is for Scarlett, really.
Dark, actually. I think Dark is going to come out. I think Dark.
So?
Yeah, come on. This is a Dark moment.
Yeah.
I think last
They
year...
are both just laughing at each other, man.
It's Dark.
It's Sue.
Last year, Dark played against Scarlett as well in this team match, and I think Scarlett 13-12.
Yeah?
Dark, actually, and Dark won within like 3.5 minutes, if I recall correctly.
We're going full WWE here.
Crumpling up a picture of Scarlett.
All right, it's on. We've got a ZVZ. Scarlett versus Dark is going to be great.
I mean, we've said this so many times in the past, but we're very hyped for a ZVZ that includes Dark versus a foreigner, and so often Dark just rushes, right? It's like Ling all in, Bailing all in, doesn't matter, and the games end within 4 minutes. Now, of course, we had that semifinals yesterday, where that didn't happen. Finally, a non-Korean stood up against Dark, but Dark has words this morning. I mean, they were not soft.
No, he's going to show that all the other non-Koreans are just that. non-Koreans.
That is indeed the case. I mean, he's very, very confident, clearly. I love his ceremonies. A lot of smack up here on stage, but this is Scarlett. She took Serral all the way to Game 5 in Valencia. And we're having a bit of a highlight here from Cyan Rogue. Cyan playing really well, by the way. Like, it was very impressive.
Yeah, he did a good job, no doubt about it.
But you know, Toasted, I have a question for you. Like, if you look back at this game, right?
Yeah.
The moment that the Corruptors came out, it really did feel that the Phoenixes didn't do anything anymore, right? They just kind of got picked off one by one. And that's why I always feel sad when you see Protoss just give up on the Phoenixes. Like, if you have 8 or 9 Phoenixes, get +1 air weapons. And if they do go Corruptors, don't just give up on that massive investment. Ride it out, you know? It can be a bumpy ride, perhaps, but I do believe in the power of the Phoenix against Corruptors as long as you have that upgrade advantage.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is, I thought he still had a pretty decent plan with the Blink Stalkers and all. It's just, you're right, he couldn't keep any pressure on Rogue, and that's like one of the main things of pro-level play. If you don't pressure a Zerg, they get out of control.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Artosis. And you're seeing the aftermath of that here, is they are so out of control, they can start hammering away at all your bases everywhere. This is the part I was talking about with the Baylor's like, what about this way? And they're like, now let's bring them back over here. And then most of them don't connect, and he's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's completely fine.
But during this fight, there were still 8 or 10 Phoenixes. That is an insane amount of resources that were just idling on the right side of the fight, and they didn't do anything anymore because they couldn't stand up against the Hydras and the Corruptors.
Indeed.
And that's why I think it's always sad when Protoss just gives up on that initial investment, other than saying like, well, I achieved something, but I still think that's just too valuable, that's too much of a resource to just throw away.
I'll be interested to see if that actually picks up in the metagame, Rotterdam, because this Corruptor play is getting very popular against it. So I think it's either going to end the reign of Phoenixes in EVZ, or possibly we will see the +1 coming in.
With more Phoenixes. And any Impulse Crystals, obviously.
Obviously, for those pretty purple beams.
You need that.
Yeah, Corrupt is super, super strong against that style. Sorry, Roddy. It's going to be a rough period if the Zergs are paying attention.
You don't have to be sorry about it. I just think it's interesting. I mean, I think it's always fun to discuss different styles, and different Protoss players have different takes on how they should deal with it as well, right?
Well, StarCraft's a very stylistic game. You got to express yourself through it. It's like art, like dance, you know?
It's like dance.
It's a festival.
It's a festival. That's right. We haven't seen that video today yet. I got my fingers crossed that it happens again.
No, I mean, it's the finals. We're going to have only good stuff today.
Yeah. We got a lot of support here for Scarlett. She had a huge fan base that showed up for the studio matches that we had in the days leading up to this. A lot of Koreans and non-Koreans cheering her on. And she could get the closer here against Dark.
Yeah, that is a possibility. I want to see it go all the way to the end, though.
The
and the thing is, I was looking at it. It has to be special versus innovation, right? So, like, when special comes out, that's where we get to see if there's a possibility of a tie. Unless, of course, like you said, Scarlett's able to
if Scarlett wins here, then the team match is done, guys.
Yeah, that's it.
What's the score? But the weird thing is, what's the score then between Korea and, I guess, Korea's?
Korea has only lost 1 map.
Yep. So they're 3-1, and then they would be 4-1. Because there is a little bit of extra money on the line as well for the GSL team versus the World team, even though those are not our actual teams.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But think about that. If Team Korea ends up winning as well, or like the more Koreans win, Maru gets even more money even though he lost. The rich get richer, guys.
So once again, I do think it's funny that these two played against each other last year as well, when it was actually like Team GSL versus Team The World. And if I recall correctly, most of the time I do, I think Dark 13-12, and he just speedling rushed, and the game ended within like 3.5 minutes. In a way that Dark has done so many times in his career when he plays against non-Koreans. He's like, well, I say on stage they don't respect you guys, but in-game, I show that as well, because I will just make links run to the other side of the map and try to win. So I really hope that Scarlett puts up a good fight and that we see at least a longer game.
Well, that would be really funny if he actually rushes in that way, because it's like, you can't even control your units. Look at this. He's like sitting there, one hand by his right click and his
but it's
really
funny,
like
because when you talk to either European or North American pro gamers, they're like, yeah, I knew he was going to do that, and everyone tries to do that, and that's never supposed to work. And then when it's Dark, it only does work, you know, like, because it's that good that even in the first 3.5 minutes of the game, he can make a tiny difference, which is often the difference between winning your all-in or failing miserably.
Certainly. I love that he's one of those guys that puts his money where his mouth is as well. He's just not one of those people that's like, you know, you're going down, and then in a game he's like, I'm just going to, you know, just take it fast. I got to be really careful here. This guy's really scary.
So it looks like we have both of our players inside the lobby, and we're going to get this started very quickly here. Scarlett one of the best Zergs of all time in StarCraft history. But going up against Dark, someone who, I mean, minus Serral, pretty much never loses to non-Koreans. Maybe Serral's now started a trend, and Scarlett can keep it going. If we go to win 5 here for Team Serral, we close shop here for the show match, and we then go into our grand final for GSL versus the World. If Dark wins, the show match continues on.
That's crazy, because this has been so much fun, but then think of the grand final that is
well,
still actually ahead of us.
You want to talk about fun?
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to be happy.
Compared to how much fun we're going to be having in the grand finals, this is the equivalent of torture, guys. That's how different it is going to be. So yeah, both of our players are in the lobby. We're waiting for confirmation that they're actually ready, and then we'll start that countdown and we'll go into this game.
Should be a fun one, Tasteless. Some good old ZVZ. Let's see if Scarlett can get her personal revenge on Dark from last year. And of course, Scarlett going out in the round of 16 in the actual GSL versus the World Tournament. But she did play a really good series. Yeah. I think Scarlett is a little bit underrated right now, guys. I really think a lot of people don't see how good Scarlett actually is, but she's gotten a tiny bit unlucky in some of her recent tournaments.
Absolutely.
I mean, in Valencia, she got Serral in the round of 16. That also means that if you're on the other side of the bracket, there is a chance that maybe you could have gone all the way to the final,
That's
right?
a very good point, you know. Yeah. And with Scarlett, she was also the foreigner everybody was talking about early on this year after she won Pyeongchang.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, she certainly could take on Dark, but you just got to think Dark is such a scary opponent. And our game is now loading up as we go into match 6 here of the show match of Team Maru versus Team Serral, Dark versus Scarlett.
Fight!
In the upper left, in the red, our Korean Zerg player. He is
Dark.
And on the left bottom side of Redshift, we're looking at the main base of our Canadian Zerg. And what a map, Tasteless! Redshift!
Yeah, I mean, this is, especially for ZVZ, a really fun map. You know, with the way the gold base can operate, we see both players
taking
the
gold base.
Yep, taking the gold base now.
So now I really wonder if Dark is going to do what Serral did yesterday against him, where Dark went for the defensive spine crawler on his side of the minerals, where his hatchery is, while Serral had a different approach, and Serral built the spine crawler on the other side of the gold minerals, then bumped over a queen, spread a little bit of creep towards the enemy base, and then he kind of spine crawler rushed his opponent. But that was very effective, because you can put your spine crawlers in a position where it can reach the drones, but the defensive spine cannot go over the gold minerals. So
Right. No, it's a good question, but keep in mind, Scarlett's on Team Serral right now. I'm sure they were talking about this matchup. Serral gave her the skinny on exactly what you need to know to pull this off, too. So even if Dark's experienced what Serral did early on in the bracketed form of the GSL versus the World, right now, I mean, Scarlett has the person who knows how to do that build better than anybody.
I think this is going to be a very short and explosive game, because I think back with Scarlett versus Serral as well at WCS Valencia just a couple weeks ago, where Scarlett actually made an insane amount of Zerglings very quickly, was able to harass on both sides, kind of distract with Banelings on the side of the gold base, because you can obviously explode your Banelings on the other side of the minerals as well, and still connect with the drones, and then run just a bunch of Speedlings into the main base. She did that against Serral, and it worked, so there's a good chance that she wants to do something very similar against Dark here.
Okay, so for Dark, we have the third base being taken, but I don't see a third base being acquired here for Scarlett. In fact, she's making a Roach Warren, getting an Evo chamber.
And a very quick lair, so there's a good chance that Scarlett is going to go for a Nidus. I mean, that seems most likely here.
Maybe. You know, it's so weird, Roddy, because this map is with the gold base and the fact that you hit the minerals from behind.
Yeah. No, you're right, because he's also starting +1 on the Evo chamber, so maybe he just wants to get very quick Roach speed out. We'll keep a close eye on it.
Yeah, let's wait and see what Scarlett's take on this map is. I'm really glad we have maps like this in tournaments like this, because it makes for games that, You really only have weird games like this on this map. I mean, that style. So Link Speed is about to finish up over here for Dark. Now, already a huge difference here in the number of expansions. The fact that Dark seems to be gearing up to go for a longer game. He wants to get that hatchery out, whereas Scarlett is turtled up here.
Well, Dark, yes, he has expanded, but he's also making a lot of units. So Scarlett is actually the one that's stacking, and Dark is doing what Dark pretty much always does against non-Koreans, and that is make a lot of units early on, rally them to the other side of the map, and try to win.
Yeah, the blocking, though, is pretty good here. Looks like the Queen might be going down. The Lynx could get a surround over here. Another hit over here on that Queen. But I got to say, we're going to see some more Lynx possibly come down here for Dark, but Scarlett needs to get this block off right away.
Yeah, but the annoying thing for Scarlett is going to be that if she keeps everything on her ramp, there is a chance that Dark can put his roaches on the other side of the minerals, which is exactly what he's doing. And Scarlett is, of course, only on 2 hatcheries. We can't forget about that. So if Scarlett gets contained, this would actually be a disaster for her.
Yeah, this is now a moment where Dark has leveraged his position and is punishing Scarlett. Now, the Lynx can run in there for a counterattack. Scarlett should have more roaches, but a Ling-Roach combo here could be pretty tricky. Scarlett's going to use these Overlords to try to make a creep highway so she can get over here quickly and defend.
The amazing thing for Scarlett is that +1 is almost done, but it's not done just yet. I think Scarlett got a little overeager here. These roaches would have done so much better if only she had her +1 missile attacks.
Okay, you can see the roaches trying to fight back here, but so many of them already damaged. The roaches and Ravagers here for Dark beginning to push back even further. Ling's reinforcing over here, but Scarlett does not have enough, and she has to back off.
More Lings coming in now as well. Dark is going to try to go for the surround, and he does get it. No, he doesn't really get the surround, but he does get more and more damage on these roaches. Now, don't forget, Scarlett has been outmining Dark for quite some time. Even though she's down a base, she's up in workers. That's a lot more important. So, as long as this goes on, the better it will be for Scarlett, because she has a upgrade advantage already. It's only 5 minutes into the game, but her roaches do have +1 missile attacks.
Yeah, but I'm worried for Scarlett here as well. I mean, she's not able to utilize the gold base. Upgrades are good, but you know, if this hatchery is eventually killed off here, you know, upgrades for what really? I mean, if you're so low on production. Yeah. Now Dark already, you know, with more mining locations, he's not really using that natural expansion as much. It's more of the point of production, but yeah, the combo of Lings and Roaches is going to be pretty scary.
Now, you're all right that Dark is mining off his gold base at least, completely uncontested, and he doesn't need that many drones as long as you have 12. Scarlett really wants to start mining off this base, so she's going to go for it. Dark is going to try to once again go for a big surround there, but these Roaches, they're doing quite well against the Zerglings with their +1 missile attacks.
Okay, the Roaches are beginning to fight back. The Link count is thinning out, but there's still so many Roaches here for Dark continuing to push, and Dark certainly could try to reinforce this with more Lings in the front to tank.
Yeah, the Roaches of Dark still standing strong as well. The Ravagers are still alive. I think Dark has pretty much done it at this point, Tasteless. I don't know what Scarlett can do from this point, because Dark is just not allowing Scarlett to mine off this gold base.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like whoever gets the initiative here on a map like this, if you can keep it for any extended period of time, you pretty much win. So, again, Scarlett, with no other hatchery at her expansion, nowhere else to mine, these drones are just sitting, waiting for Scarlett to reclaim this. And as each minute passes, Dark gets further and further ahead.
Yep, Dark's still not building drones, and he has never tacked up, guys. So Dark is very committed, but he's committed in the right way because he's doubling the army supply of Scarlett. He has plenty of Ravagers, which is obviously very nice, but above all, he's denying the mining of this base. Scarlett is trying to do whatever she can to still get a little bit of income.
Oh, wow, look at this counterattack here. The Lings are going to be able to come in here. There's nothing to defend, and this may be the killing blow here on Scarlett.
Yep, Scarlett still does have plenty of roaches, but Dark is just not allowing her to mine. And this hatchery is taking more and more damage as well, so it's about to fall.
Yeah, a few more volleys there of Corrosive Bile, and that should end up chasing Scarlett away here. The Lynx now coming down again. Scarlett has to defend 2 different locations at once. It's one more Corrosive Bile shot, and Scarlett's hatchery at the gold base will go down. And you see this one sneak into the Ravager.
Ray Allen, the Ravager.
Bump.
And he hurts.
Okay, that hatch is down now. We have Scarlett on 1 hatchery for the time being. Now, Dark's almost mined at his gold base, but he'll rotate drones over to his natural expansion. And really, Dark just with a cleaner game from start to finish.
Yeah, And in a weird way, I mean, it's looking very, very, very bad for Scarlett, of course, but she still has an upgrade advantage, and Dark still has. Dark has 76 Zerglings, and if Zerglings don't get the proper engagement, like, I'm not going to say that Scarlett is in a great position, because she's obviously not. She's definitely on the ropes, but Dark has an army that he kind of has to make something work. He has to make something happen real soon, because you can't just let Scarlett get this base eventually. And
I mean, it's tricky. And Scarlett can expand down to this base. I mean, Dark is almost done mining out his gold base. I just think the sheer numbers may outweigh the upgrades here.
No, you're totally right.
Especially when you have Lings that get surrounds and you fire your own corrosive vials and they're still stuck with a Ling surrounding them.
Yeah, and I think now Dark is going to get the Zerglings maybe perhaps from the right side, and then he's going to engage with the Roaches and the Ravages on the left. Scarlett's going to drop a couple of corrosive vials. They're both getting Carapace upgrades, by the way. I think Dark is just waiting for his Carapace upgrade to finish up. And then he's like, all right, you've got +1 missile attacks. I've got Carapace. That's a beautiful surround by Dark.
Yeah, here we go. The vials are going to come down and fully damage everything trapped inside. GG. Dark takes it.
Wow. That was a fantastic final engagement, as Dark is telling all of us to shush, as he still got it, Tasteless.
Beautifully done. Now, that was a win that Team Maru needed badly, but they're far from out of this now.
Hey guys, quick question.
Yes.
Are Scarlett's parents Korean?
I don't know. What?
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I was just checking because that's what Dark said he was going to do to everyone but Serral. So.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Dark just does not lose to anybody who's not a Korean, except for Serral. Wow, well, great game there. Dark really showing that you need to leverage, not just utilizing your gold base right away, but denying them from ever mining from it.
I still kind of like Scarlett, her build, but it's really the very first fight. She ended up losing 6 or 7 Roaches before +1 missile attacks was done.
Yeah.
I believe if she's able to dance back and forth a tiny bit longer, put herself between the mineral lines and those edges, and if the upgrade kicks in, then I actually believe that she could win that first fight, and then I really like her position. But yeah, ZVZ is a very, very unforgiving matchup.
Especially on Redshift. You stop him on the gold minerals for just a moment, and you just explode in units over him.
And especially with Dark. He's a monster with 0 chill in this matchup. He is a frightening force.
He has no chill.
We have 2 matchups left in this team match. There's a chance we'll only see one, but it's going to be either Sue versus Neeb or Special.
Juanito out there.
Special innovation, boys.
Spam those Doritos.
Special versus Innovation. That's going to be an amazing TVT. And guys, we all know how close Special is with some of those top-tier Terrans in Korea.
Yeah.
Especially TY, but also Maru every event. So you know that Juanito wants to make Special proud here.
Well, this is actually doable. Like, Special is especially good in TVT.
Yeah, it's one of his best matchups. He's been in Korea training for so long, and a lot of the scary Terrans are here on that ladder. He faces them every day. Like you said, he's good friends with TY, and TY is incredible at the matchup as well.
So guys, right now Team Serral is in the lead 4-2. If Special wins here, it's 4-3. Last match would be Sue for Team Maru versus Neeb from Team Serral. That could potentially go to that ace match, guys.
Yeah,
but then
no,
Special
totally.
needs to win here.
It absolutely could. And I mean, this is what we all want, right?
Neeb is like, Special, just win, please. So I don't have to play today. Or excuse me, go, you know.
Yeah. Look, Juan has been playing for a long time. He's a very disciplined player, and I think TVT-wise, yeah, he can take on Innovation. I think on paper, Innovation is supposed to win, but it's definitely possible that Special could take one game off of Innovation. Sure.
Yeah, I'm with you there. This is one of those games that I think is going to be like one of the games that go a little bit later. A few of these games, you know, we're showing the highlight from this one that we just saw here, have been kind of fast, a little bit dirty. Kind of like just a quick sort of blow to the face and then it's over. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. This one I feel like is going to go a little bit further in the distance. I mean, the nature of TVT also sort of lends itself to longer games as well.
It's like this is the fight that I feel it went really bad for Scarlett. Look on the right side, look at her upgrades, and now she ends up losing 4 or 5 Roaches before those upgrades kick
really
in.
brutal.
Because it's mostly Zerglings. The Roaches would do so much better.
Almost all the Lings were actually cleaned already, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that was 50% more shots than she even needed to take in that battle. It actually makes a gigantic difference, like you said.
And you can see, you know, without the right units to ever reclaim that location behind the gold base, Scarlett's playing from behind. She did a good job. It was impressive, but it was not enough to actually close out with a win.
So, innovation versus
excited.
special.
Well, first we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we'll start that match. So stick around here with us at the GSL versus the World.